Oh, good, you're here. Come on. This is the centre of performance. Whenever there's a top performance in New Zealand, it all comes from here. That's Lisa Carrington. She's been doing that for days. That's the boy who got the hole-in-one in Tokyo. Oh, he did it again. Hey, Finn, how's the performance going?
Top tier.
Nice. This is our Generate room. In here, you'll find our top performers helping Kiwis maximise their KiwiSaver investments. Get in here, Finn. Maximise.
Right,
Generate. Putting performance first.
Hamish Kerr, welcome back to my podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I mean, yeah, I'm stoked to be here.
Well, last time you came around to my house and it was in the spare bedroom at home and we had no videos. Now we're in a studio and we got the full setup.
Yeah, Kanye was jumping around. We were sort of trying to show him away, and I think you were trying to fiddle with the video and trying to work it out. And it was actually, I think it was still runners only back then. So yeah, to be back when it's not just runners and everybody else, that's pretty special.
Yeah, there's been a bit of a glow up for the podcast in the last 3 years since you were on, but more importantly, my God, the list of achievements in your life since the last appearance and now. Last time you came on, you just won the gold medal for the high jump at the Manchester Commonwealth Games.
Birmingham.
Oh, Birmingham, sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
Strong start.
Start again.
A better podcast would start again, but we're 49 seconds in. Fuck it, let's stick with it.
Yeah, okay. Manchester Com Games, yeah.
So gold medal at the Com Games.
Yeah.
Since then, well, for starters, like to timestamp this conversation, it's early October. You've just come back from
Tokyo. Yeah, Tokyo World Champs. So yeah, first ever World Championship win for me. So yeah, a lot of things have happened, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, it's been pretty special. Like the last couple of years, even reflecting on what we'd chatted about 3 years ago compared to now has been pretty fascinating. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Mm. So the win at Tokyo, also the gold Olympic gold medal at Paris in 2024, gold at World Indoor Champs 2024, Halberg Sportsman of the Year 2025. Like you're the undisputed world high jump champ right now.
Right now, yeah, I am. Which is it's pretty crazy to think that like even at the start of my career, to have one of those achievements would have been a massive honour. And to be here with all of them is just something that I just pinch myself every day. I'm just so grateful for it.
So it's been, say, 13, 14 months since the win at Paris. How often do you think about that?
Not a huge amount, to be honest. Like, I think I get reminded of it constantly on tour. Every comp I go to now is, I get introduced as the Olympic champion, and everyone kind of wants to have a piece of my thoughts for the fact that is what I did last year. But I think for me, I feel like I'm so happy with the progress and where I'm at, and I think that was such an important stepping stone for me, and something that will always be my greatest achievement. But at the same time, this year was super busy as well, and we had to just get back on the horse at a certain point and almost leave that championship behind, and really kind of work out what we needed to do to achieve all the next goals. So yeah, and these small kind of fleeting moments where I do have time off, I'm on a small break at the moment. I can sit there and reflect on all of the things that have happened, but at the same time we start working out what's next and how we kind of distill down that success and continue to sort of, I suppose, get more of it in the future.
It's funny, like from a psychological standpoint, because I've had, so you have this massive win and you're not dwelling on it. You've got to park it and move on. I've had so many high performers on the podcast and they talk about, like, for example, I had Laurie Mains on, the old All Black coach, a few weeks ago. And he said most days he still thinks about the 95 World Cup. So 30 years on, it's like a blip in his record or whatever, or a fail, and it still haunts him.
Yeah, I think your failures haunt you more than your successes, probably. They're the ones you think about more as a high performance athlete, or I certainly do. But at the same time, like after Paris, that was probably the first time that I really was like kind of overawed by an achievement that I'd gotten. And then, it did take a long time for me to kind of sit with that and contend with that and work out what was next. Because it is weird when you're working towards something over so many years, and the pinnacle is always told, you're always told that the pinnacle is the Olympics, and the pinnacle is winning that title. And so you kind of get there and it does take a while to kind of sit with that, and it does sort of feel a bit weird at times. But yeah, I think that as athletes we're hungry, and we're always going to want to push on and get more as well.
Have you achieved have you ticked off what you wanted to, or is it more? More than what you ever imagined?
I think the titles are more than I've ever imagined, for sure. Like I think that, I mean, look, I would, if you'd asked me every year from about 2018 all the way to now, what my expectation was going to be of my career. You asked me in 2018, I'd sort of just started to take the sport seriously, and I'd finished my university degree. I moved to Christchurch and started training full time, and the goal there was to make the Olympics. To go to Tokyo 2020 and have that amazing performance and achievement, and then kind of move on and get on with the rest of my life. And then I did, pretty well there. I made the final and came 10th, and then it was kind of like, wow, I think I could actually do this full time. And then it was, how do I, support myself and get the right team of people around me that I can do this long term. And then every year from there, it's been about something bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that, the titles are massive, but at the same time, deep down, I know I can jump higher. And so that's sort of one of the things that, if you'd probably said at the start of the career, I was going to jump as high as I would, I'd be really stoked. But now I'm here, I want more. So yeah, I feel like there's still a lot that gets me out of bed in the morning, and I still really feel motivated to want to train and achieve as much as possible.
Because your personal best at the moment is
236.
And what's the height of a door frame? Standard door frame?
A door frame's like 198. So yeah, so I'm well over the old door frame spec, which is quite nice. But I think for me, 240 is the next big goal, and that's the height of a ceiling, a standard ceiling. So yeah, so I'm going from doors to ceilings, and yeah, I think for me that's a height that in the history of our event has been a pretty kind of top mark, and something that has really stamped your mark as one of the best or greatest high jumpers ever. So yeah, for me, that's what I'm aiming towards next, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the challenge of trying to do that.
So what's your height in centimetres?
I am 198. So yeah, I'm pretty tall, but I feel like I'm like the perfect height, because I don't have to I don't really struggle traveling. I don't really struggle with door frames and just moving around. But at the same time, it's obviously pretty good for my event.
The world record is 245.
Yeah,
and it was set in the 90s by some Cuban dude.
Yeah,
yeah. How is he an outlier? How has that record stood for 30 years?
Yeah, look, I think there's two guys who kind of stand above the rest of the high jumpers in history. It's him and a guy called Mutaz Barsham from Qatar. Mutaz is just coming to the end of his career, so he's about to retire in the next few years. I would predict. I think he keeps thinking he's going to retire every year, and then he never does. But I'm hoping he'll retire soon. But it's those two who have been kind of the guys going between about 243 and 245 for most of their career. And I think high jump's a funny one. It's not like running or other events where we have these big technological advancements in the shoes and in the training methods. It's such a rhythm and timing based event that we kind of resist technology a lot, because every time shoe brands want to bring out these new shoes that are supposedly faster and bouncier and whatever, it destroys our rhythm and destroys the way that we've kind of developed our technique over the years. And so a lot of the guys are pretty resistant to any time anyone wants to change shoes. So yeah, I think that kind of leads into the reason why this record has stood for so long. But also, when you're starting to jump that high, it takes just such a toll on your body that it's not only being able to get up there and actually have the physical ability to do it, but it's actually being able to have the mental strength to take that one or two opportunities that you'll have and actually make it a reality. Mutaz, the Qatari, he's attempted the world record 3 times, and I think about 2 of those times he's had pretty bad injuries just because of the force that's going through his legs. And so even for me, at 236, I feel it the next day. After jumping 236 at World Champs, I was sore for a week. So, to be able to actually get up to those heights and then actually be able to make the most of that form you've got it's a pretty hard thing to do.
What are the injury concerns? Is it ankles, back?
It kind of depends, athlete to athlete, but for me, it's always been ankle and knee.
Okay.
Luckily, touch wood, I haven't had a huge amount of back problems so far in my career. Mm-hmm. But for everybody, it's something different, right? You talk to all the boys; they're all bandaged up and held together with tape, and it's just I suppose the thing we do to ourselves to do what we love. But it's pretty tough. I think they reckon that about 10 times your body weight goes through your foot and your ankle in takeoff. So if you think that, for me, I'm not the heaviest guy in the world, but at about 85 kgs, that's about 850 kgs worth of force going through my ankle. And having to do that 10 to 12 times in a comp, it definitely takes it out of you. So yeah, it's something that you want to make sure that you're minimising the effect it has. But also, it's something that you can't really train for. Trying to do 850 kg squats or deadlifts or whatever it is in the gym, like it just doesn't work. So you have to just do a lot of jumping and trust your training and hope it all works out on the day.
And you're turning 30 soon, eh?
Yeah, don't remind me.
What does age mean in terms of high jumpers? When do you guys typically peak?
Yeah, it remains to be seen. I think these days, a lot of athletes are competing a lot older in their career. We've definitely seen this trend of guys kind of competing well into their 30s, but I still think it's a bit of a lottery. I get the sense that some guys will be able to continue deep into their 30s. Some guys just won't. And so for me, I'm pretty fully committed to the next Olympics. So that's 2028. I will be 32 because I think that's definitely a time where my body will still be good and I'll still be able to kind of get the things I want out of it. But I think after that, it starts becoming a wee bit more of a lottery. And so we'll just we'll sit down as a team and work out if that's something that we think is going to happen. But I mean, for now, I've actually only just turned 29. Thank you. So 30 is still a wee while away. But yeah, for now, there's no. Yeah, it's not something I'm curious about or anything. But yeah, I think for now, there's no evidence that that any sort of aging is taking its toll. But yeah, I'm sure it's one of those things that I'll probably wake up one morning and it will hit me like a ton of bricks.
Those next Olympics, they're going to be sick, eh? LA. They've got all these massive $1 billion projects underway. So what's the goal there? Like 240?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, I'd love to defend my title. I think that's something that it gets me out of bed in the morning for sure. Like, I love the idea of being able to go there, and especially knowing that there's a couple of real top Americans. I think it would be great to beat them in their home arena. But at the same time, the Olympic record is 239. And so to be able to jump 240 at the Olympics and break the Olympic record would be something that I would consider pretty special. And I suppose the reasoning behind that is a world record is the best that someone's done on any given day, whereas the Olympic record is the best that anyone's given on the day that it counts. And so for me, that's the most important thing is the way I've set up my career is I will win when it matters. I won't win all the time, but when it matters and when the stakes are really high, that's when I bring out my best performance. And you look at the Olympic record and the history the Olympics has. For every high jumper in history to have known that there's one day every 4 years that they really have to peak. If I could take that record and say that I was the one who was able to peak the best and prepare the best, then I think that would tie really nicely into kind of the mantra and the story that I want to tell of my career.
Mm. Yeah, I'm so excited. This is going to come later in the podcast, but we're going to drill into that Paris event because you almost choked.
Yep.
Like in the qualifying rounds,
yep.
Like you were lucky to make it through, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, for sure.
But that must have been terrifying. One massive change in the last 3 years since you're on the podcast is new coach.
Yes.
So last time you were on the podcast, you were with your old coach of 6 years, Terry. Yep. Now you've got James.
Yep.
Jimmy
Sandilands, yeah.
Yeah. Who's your girlfriend's coach as well?
Yes, yeah. Yes.
What was the thought process that went into that?
Yeah, so there was quite a lot. So I last time I was here, 2022, coming off the end of that year, I experienced quite a lot of success. I won bronze medal at World Indoors that year, which was my first ever global medal, and then won the Com Games, which is obviously a great achievement and something I was super proud of, and I felt like it was a real step forward in my career. But also in and amongst that, we also had a World Champs, which I failed to qualify for the final, and the heights that I cleared that season compared to even the season before weren't as good. And so I think that we kind of had rose-tinted glasses a wee bit in terms of my progression that year. I think that we achieved a lot, but the level of progression and the kind of the intent we had behind where I was getting those next centimetres and what was next was just starting to lack a little bit. And so it sort of didn't take until 2023 to kind of realise when that really hit home, and that hit home in Budapest at World Championships, where again I didn't make the final, and that was something that was quite unexpected for me. I was about 5th in the world. I jumped 231, 232 that year. I then ended up jumping 222 in that final in that qualifying round in Budapest, and bombed out pretty badly. And I think that really made me realise that I'd probably been taking my foot off the gas a wee bit in the last couple of years, just with the success I'd been having at those other competitions. And I think I got a real sense I was turning into this kind of like this journeyman athlete who, when conditions were bad, when it was raining, when everyone else didn't want to be there, I was kind of like the guy who'd get up and steal a win and steal
You
a few
even
places.
had the nickname Rainy Man.
Yeah, I did. Like, the boys started calling me that near the end of the season, and I didn't like it, because it kind of made me realise that, like, I was this athlete who I was hoping that everyone would jump bad rather than expecting everyone would jump good, and then also wanting to be a part of that. And so, yeah, that was pretty tough. Like, and then I think there was that, but then there was also the whole case of needing to. You're good. No worries. Little coffee break. Yeah, so I think that was that, and then combined with the fact that Terry was starting to look at wanting to retire, and he'd started having those conversations with me around, what was next, and who would sort of start running my program after that. It essentially made me realise that after Budapest that it was probably time to start moving into a new process, and the big reason for that was that in those few years as well, what had happened is I'd started travelling a lot more, and so because I was travelling a lot more, my team dynamic had to change. It became much more around how did the team coach or the team leader of the team coordinate everybody else behind the scenes. So, my physio and my nutritionist and my mental skills coach and all these other guys who previously would just deal with me on a one-to-one basis, and then Terry would deal with me on a one-to-one basis. It was much more around how did Terry deal with all of these guys collectively, cook up a really nice plan, and then deliver it to me. And that just was just a different way of working. And so that's where James came in. He is someone I've known very well over a number of years, and he's a really good friend of mine. And we kind of came through sport together. Me as an athlete, him as a coach. He was studying sports science when I was kind of just starting out as trying to make it as a high performance athlete, and sort of over the years he's gotten better and better roles, and I've obviously experienced better and better results. And so it kind of got to this point where he was working in my team already, and had a really good understanding of everybody's role and what they were doing. So we brought him on board, which was a bit nerve-wracking. Obviously it was less than 12 months before the Olympics when he fully kind of took the reins. But credits to Terry. Terry really was helpful in that process, and he aided Jimmy and mentored Jimmy through kind of the process of handing over his program. It wasn't so much a change in approach or anything. It was more, what has Terry done up till now that we can really distill down and make into an amazing product. And so that happened, and obviously we got the results, and then this year we've continued to push on and get some amazing things. But I think it just kind of goes to show that Terry was an amazing guy for me when I was coming through the sport, and as I got better and better, I started to outgrow him a wee bit, and that role and those needs that I had as an athlete changed, and thankfully he was pretty open at kind of discussing that and making me realise that maybe I needed to change.
So it seems like it was just a natural sort of conscious uncoupling. There were no big fireworks or...
No, it's not. I mean, I think, in sport when you change coaches, a lot of the time, you're firing your coach and getting a new one, and there's some big stuff kind of happening in the background. But I think Terry, credit to him, he was able to break it down for me, and I sort of had the realization that this just wasn't working, and we could kind of work through that process together rather than me just working through it with a new guy. So there was definitely a number of months there where it was me, Jimmy, and Terry all kind of working together. And then as it got closer to the games, Terry stepped back. But also at the games last year, Terry was there, so he was in the stadium when I won, and so it was real special to be able to share that moment with him and then celebrate with him afterwards as well. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah,
that's wonderful. And so Jimmy, your coach now, you guys were like good mates beforehand. How do you how do you navigate that?
Yeah, well, we actually used to live together. So when I moved down to Christchurch, we lived together. I needed a place to stay. He had a spare room in his flat, and so it was me, Jimmy, and then Hannah, his then girlfriend, now wife, living together. And so that was good fun. We got to know each other pretty well through that time, and I think that also kind of really it really helps us now that we have to balance these different roles, because we used to kind of balance roles anyway, like flatmates and friends and training partners a little bit back in the day. So yeah, now it's very much like, kind of depends on where I'm texting him. If it's, if I'm sharing memes on Instagram or Snapchatting him, it's slightly different to when I'm WhatsApping or texting him. But no, I think we manage it really well. And it's actually a massive benefit, because it means, when I'm overseas, one of the biggest problems I had early on in my career was definitely like contending with the loneliness of being overseas. You're so far away from your support team and your support structure of your friends and your family, and I am on the road for long periods of time, and it is an individual sport. So that was really tough to begin with, to really kind of make that stuff work. And so now I'm in a position where not only do I get my coach to come along with me, but he's actually a good mate. And so yeah, we just feel like it adds so much to the value of what I do. And yeah, we're kind of just like two Kiwi boys who travel the world and get to see kind of all these amazing sights. So super grateful for that. But yeah, and as you mentioned as well, he does coach my girlfriends. So there's a lot of dynamics there. In terms of her, being my training partner essentially, as well as my girlfriend, and then us getting coached by the same people who's my mate. But I think that kind of community feel and that family feel is what makes me really thrive.
Does the nature of your relationship with him and the history make it easier or more difficult to have tough conversations?
I think it makes it... I mean, he knows me very well, and he knows the way I operate, which I think in competition is massive. He can look at me without even saying anything and know how I'm feeling. To be able to have that sort of level of support, and in a competition in high jump, a coach is vitally important, because there's so many different dynamics happening. I could be too hyped up. I could be not hyped enough. I could be running too fast, too slow. My positioning might be wrong. There's so many different things that a coach has to react to and confirm with an athlete. And that's not even to then add in all the mental stuff that's going on. And so for him to be able to look at me and know where I'm at and what's happening, and that Paris Olympics qualifying is a perfect example of that. I don't know if you want to get into it now, but I mean, he was instrumental in getting me through that. So I think it does really help. And yeah, it's great as well, because at the end of the day, he wants the best for me, but I also want the best for him. And so if we're both kind of building this amazing legacy, and I'm getting the wins, and he's getting the props for those wins as well, I think it's a cool spot to be in.
Oh, it's been an incredible journey that you've been on. It's remarkable. Yeah, we'll get to the Paris stuff soon, but first of all, I want to go back. So early years of Hamish Kerr. So your dad's a cardiologist,
Yep.
Mum's a speech therapist. She couldn't even. They didn't come to Paris, but she couldn't even watch it on TV. She had to go outside.
She was too nervous. Yeah. So,
You're a terrible son.
I know. Well, she was in Tokyo as well, and she was telling me off, because even Tokyo was stressful.
You finished 10th in Tokyo, eh?
No, this is Tokyo this time.
Oh,
so, okay. So, Mum and Dad have always been my biggest supporters. I love what they do, and I didn't quite go down the medical pathway that the rest of their family have, but I think one of the biggest things that I got taught when I was a kid was, if you're going to do something, you do it to completion. It doesn't matter how well you do at it. It doesn't matter what the outcome is, so long as you finish what you do. Then you can go and do something. And so a perfect example of that is when I was 5 years old, I was playing football, and I loved playing football. But then about halfway through the season, my mates at school convinced me that I should play rugby. And so I went home and I was like, oh, Mum, I don't want to play football anymore. I want to play rugby. And she's like, yeah, that's all good. You can definitely play, but you have to finish the season, so you're playing next year. And so I think, I even remember that was when I was like 5 years old, and I remember that like vividly now as a moment where I kind of realised that it is so important to be finishing things. And so I think, for them, that's the thing that they love about where I'm at now with my sport is obviously I'm getting these wins and I'm doing all this stuff, but I found something I'm real passionate about and something that I want to work really hard at. And so I think for them, obviously nerves aside and that kind of stress of what actually goes on in the competitions aside, like they're just super proud of what I do, and I really feel that. So yeah, I think that's something that was real special about where we're growing up, and it definitely shows. I mean, I've got 3 other siblings, and they're all pretty high performing in their own rights in their various fields, and we're all doing different things, which is quite cool. So yeah, I really feel that. So it was super cool being able to grow up in that space and that challenge of just making sure you're doing things as best you can. And then, I think it's definitely pushed well into my career.
Why, if you drill down into why she was unable to watch it, so I believe in the qualifying rounds, and we'll get to this soon. You weren't doing you ended up winning gold, but you weren't doing very well in the qualifying. She had to go outside and just get some fresh air.
Yeah, so I mean, high jump's a pretty stressful event to watch because it's so obvious whether it's pass or fail. You can't really you can't really try harder. You just have to be in the right frame of mind. And in that qualifying round, that was when Mum went outside. Her and Dad were watching it, in the middle of the night in New Zealand, as we were competing over in Paris, and they were sitting there on their little iPad watching on Sky. And I think that was after that second attempt at 220, where I missed it, and then I only had one jump to go. She was like, I just can't do this anymore. And so she just walked outside and was just looking at the stars and just breathing. And then I think Dad kind of called her back in and being like, it's all good, you got it. And so she kind of went, oh, phew. But I think that's the thing, even this year in Tokyo, Mum came along and watched, and her and Maddie, my girlfriend, were there, which was super cool because they were able to kind of support each other. And I think Mum started crying at about 2:31 in the final and was just like, I don't know why he does this. Can't he just clear it first attempt? And at the end of the day, she's obviously super stoked once I do well. But I think it's kind of cool because I know she's not doing that because she wants me to do well. It's because she knows that I'll be disappointed if I don't. I don't think it's anything that she it's not like she's wanting this. She just wants it for me. So I really feel that support. But it's pretty funny how it is just such an intense thing, right?
Oh, just a wave of emotions, eh?
Yeah.
So you're born in Dunedin, raised in Christchurch. Born in Christchurch, raised in?
No. Born in Dunedin, raised in Auckland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then moved to Christchurch to train?
Yep.
What are your earliest memories?
Earliest memories, funny you should say that. We actually lived in Boston for 2 years. So when I was 3 and 4, we lived in Boston. Dad had a job over there in cardiology. So I actually remember some of my first memories were eating dirty snow and the streets in Boston and walking along the beach, which is probably a small bay, and just thinking it was the longest beach ever. My first memories are definitely Auckland. I lived here from when I was about 5 years old to when I left school. So loved it here. I feel like now I'm a bit more of a general New Zealander, but I've still got a little bit of my heart in Auckland for sure.
And what about sports growing up? You alluded before to playing football and rugby.
Yeah.
Were you a tall kid?
I was a tall kid. I was always the tallest kid in the class. Not by a huge amount, but by enough. I was kind of always that kid who everyone was like, oh yeah, you'll stop growing at some point and we'll all catch you. And I kind of never really did. But I think sport for me when I was younger, I played a lot of sport. I kind of had organised sports, so I'd play rugby in the winter, and then I'd do usually athletics usually in the summer. And then once I got to being in my teenage years, I was a little bit too skinny for rugby, kind of got banged around a wee bit too much. So then I started doing cross-country running in winter. But I think for me, sport was always just a participation thing. I played every sport at primary school that you could sign up for, and I loved going out for just adventures and walks and playing tag with my mates at lunch. And I think for me, sport was an opportunity to get outside and get away from the classroom and just try and spend as much time outside as possible. So I think that was kind of what really got me into wanting to play sport. And then obviously the success I've had has kind of kept me here. But at the same time, like, you know, I reflect on it a lot that I'm just the kid who gets to do PE for a living now. So I think that fundamentally that doesn't really change. Like, I just love being outside and love moving around and getting to do what I get to do. So yeah, I think when I was young, I definitely had that range of sports. High jump wasn't like the thing that I really kind of honed into until I was probably in my real early 20s. I love to run. I love to jump. I feel like I did a lot of different things within athletics. But at the same time, you know, if you threw me a ball, I was definitely willing to play as well. So yeah, I think that variation definitely kind of got me to where I need to be now. Obviously not a lot of variation anymore, but yeah, it definitely got me here.
I feel like in the New Zealand school system, through primary and intermediate, maybe even the first couple of years of college, everyone dabbles in high jump. Everyone has a go at high jump, long jump, all those standard athletics day things. Were you good at high jump? Did you win the high jump growing up?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I was
doing a scissor jump, though.
I was tall, yeah, and so I did love high jump. Like, it was kind of always the event that I loved the most. So I won it at like primary school. I think I jumped like the school record of like 150 or something like that, and then went to intermediate. I won it at like a school level, not at like a regional level or national level, but definitely like I'd always be winning it at school. And then I kind of would go to Auckland champs and come sort of fourth or fifth, like, you know, not groundbreaking, but also pretty decent. But every year I kind of got a wee bit better. And I think the reason that, you know, it was the sport I was the best at, but it wasn't the sport that I really kind of pushed into, and that was because I didn't really see a future in it. You know, it's such a niche event. It's such a small kind of part of a sport, which is then, you know, a small part of a bigger kind of sporting industry, I suppose. It didn't really feel like something that I had a future in or something I could have a career out of, and so I loved it. I enjoyed doing it, but yeah, ultimately I kind of knew that I'd have to have something else on the side as well, and so that's why I, you know, played other sports for the enjoyment and for the love, but also tried to, you know, I went to uni and I studied and I made sure that I kind of got everything, you know, all my ducks in a row on the side of that as well. So yeah, it's kind of only been probably in the last few years I've realised how much of a career this could be for me. And so yeah, I think that's quite interesting. Like, just not really seeing a future in it to where I am now. You know, being able to travel the world and do what I love for a living.
And isn't it funny? I don't know if this is something that you think about, but you've sort of single-handedly rewritten that narrative. So a lot of young New Zealanders probably see high jump as a sport they can do now.
Yeah, well, I think yeah. Yes, in high jump for sure, but I think what's super awesome about you know, the general state of track and field in New Zealand at the moment is that there's role models in any sport or in any event that are doing really well and who are professionals, you know, for our country. So you think about the likes of, you know, Zoe Hobbs and Tom Walsh and Geordie Beamish, you know, our latest track and field track gold medalist, and you know, I think that these people have kind of paved all these amazing trails. But I think at the end of the day, like, you know, there's just so many different ways to attack our sport, you know, different levels of progression and different ways of kind of achieving, you know, the problem that we have in front of us, that I just hope that people realise that just because my path's been blazed doesn't mean that other paths can't as well. You know, if you get to the top and if you really get to where we're at, there's a good future there and some really good opportunities. So yeah, just get out there and do it.
So you gave it away completely for your university years, right?
I did, yeah. Look, I think I think a big part of it was that I didn't see a future. You know, I finished high school. I jumped about 210. Which is, you know, it's not bad. But to then make the next jump up, which was to make a world championships, I was going to have to jump 230. And so that 20 centimetre gap when you're an 18-year-old, you know, when delayed gratification and, you know, all these things in your frontal lobe haven't really developed yet, like, you know, I just wasn't super interested. So, yeah, I went to uni and had a good time for a few years. And I was still training a little bit on the side. You know, I had a coach at uni who really kind of just supported me and encouraged me to turn up. You know, she'd just text me the training times each Monday, and most of the time I just ignore them. You know, every so often I would kind of turn up, and she was really supportive of me just wanting to get back into it. So yeah, I took some time to really just get my ducks in a row and enjoy the uni life and enjoy just studying and kind of that whole part of my life. But then I did start realising near the end of my degree how much I miss sport and how much I really missed my event. I got the opportunity in second year, sort of near the end of second year, to kind of talk to a few young athletes about my experiences in sport and what I'd done, because I sort of did get to a decent level by the end of high school. I won the senior national champs as well as the secondary school champs. So I was like the best high jumper of anyone in New Zealand before I kind of gave it away. And so I had this opportunity to kind of talk to a few people, and it made me realize how much I missed it and how much I really didn't want to be that kind of person who, like, I started building this narrative of like, oh, like I could have been really good, but I got injured, or I could have been really good, but something kind of got in the way. And so I sort of was able to arrest that that spiral and able to kind of get back into it and realize that if I could get to the end of my career and know that I'd given it my all and I didn't have any regrets, then that was pretty much a place that I could then, put it to bed, move away and do what I want to do next. But yeah, I felt like I hadn't got to that point yet, so that's why I got back into it.
So you did an economics degree.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you weren't a high jumper, what do you think you'd be doing with your life right now?
I have no idea. That's why I'm glad I am a high jumper. Look, I think that part of my life will always be very important. I never thought that this would be a career. I never thought that I would be here for this long doing what I'm doing, and so yeah, I'm excited for what's next. Whatever that may be. But for now, I'm focused on jumping as high as possible, and I'm open to opportunities. I love meeting people and chatting about what they've done, and just meeting great New Zealanders and seeing what's going on in the world. But yeah, for now, I will continue to build those networks, but high jump's the main thing.
When you're at the level you're at, like the undisputed GOAT high jumper in the world right now, is it lucrative? Are there good opportunities? Is it an okay living?
Yeah, I get by.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think track and field is quite a big sport overseas, especially when you get into Europe. The markets they have there, it's just the multitudes on top of what we're dealing with here. And so, I think that a lot of people are probably surprised at how good of a living it is. I don't want to go into too many details, but it's definitely something that I was even surprised at. Growing up and coming into the sport, even if you'd asked me kind of a few years ago, how successful I would have been, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty comfortable now. I can bring my girlfriend and my coach, to Europe with me every year and do that pretty comfortably. And the lights stay on at home and back home at Christchurch, I've just bought my first house, and I've done all these things that I feel like a lot of people my age would be doing as well. So yeah, I think that it's definitely, there's definitely a lot of opportunity out there. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that if you feel like you're going to put your life on hold for a few years to do, it does catch up once you get to the top.
It's pleasing to hear that, because there'd be nothing worse than being, so good at something and then you retire at 30, 35, whatever, and have like nothing to show for it and be on the back foot.
Yeah, I think, look, I mean, I never got into this for money.
No,
I did it for the love. But at the same time, I think that if, that love runs out quickly. I think if, as a 30-year-old, if I was still kind of going paycheck to paycheck, really struggling to get by, it would become quite tough. And so yeah, I'm super grateful. I've got some great sponsors. Puma Sportswear is my main one, and they're so supportive of me and really kind of enable a lot of what I do. So yeah, super grateful for everyone who's helped me on this journey. And yeah, I hope to continue.
So your partner, Maddie Wilson, she's a heptathlete.
Yep.
What's the heptathlon? Is it 8 events?
It's 7.
7 events.
So I'm going to get shredded here, but it's so you go hurdles, long jump, shot put. Hurdles, high jump, shot put, 200. That's day 1. And then day 2, long jump, javelin, 800 meters. So yeah, she
used to be a superb all-round athlete.
Yeah. It's exhausting watching her train. She's just like always having to do all these different events. But yeah, super cool. This year especially, she kind of did her first overseas competitions, and thankfully they were in kind of a weekend that I didn't have competitions on, so I was able to go to Austria and watch and support her, and so it's real special. Like, she's a couple of years younger than me, and sort of probably on a very similar career trajectory, I hope, that I was 4 or 5 years ago, and so to be able to kind of support her and support her as my partner first and foremost, which is, sometimes tough to balance. But yeah, I'm just super proud of her, and I can't wait to see what's next. Her next big goals are Com Games. She wants to qualify for that and go next year. And yeah, for me, obviously with what we've talked about in my goals for LA, I think another really cool goal for me is that if we were both there and able to share that stage, I would be pretty stoked with that. So yeah, let's hope.
And out of the 7 disciplines in the heptathlon, from what I can gather, high jumps like her specialty.
Yeah, nothing to do with me.
Yeah, but do you guys talk high jump at home or?
Not really. I mean, look, she is the best high jump coach in the world, right? So, why would she need to talk to me about it? No, but I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I've always been very hands off with my training. I turn up to train. I do what my coach tells me to do. I go home and I recover. That's my job. And so it's the same with Maddie. We obviously go to training, we challenge each other, and we're always pushing ourselves in that element. But at the same time, her strengths are her strengths, and yeah, she's got a great coach to be able to work through that.
How did you guys met through high jump?
We met through training. So we actually both used to train with Terry, and then she moved to Jimmy about 18 months before I did. But yeah, we kind of met through that. Yeah, she's a Gizzy girl. I'm an Aucklander, so kind of displaced North Islanders living down in Christchurch. So they sort of shared a wee bit of love there. But yeah, it's been really cool. She's super supportive, and I just hope that in the next few years I can be as supportive as she has been to me.
Yeah, because I saw a photo of her at the Olympics. She was wearing a T-shirt saying "I know Hamish Kerr." Yeah. That was awesome. Did you know? Did you know she'd packed that, or was that a surprise?
No. So the funny story behind that was that our flatmates, Scotty and Brea, who were also there, who also were in those T-shirts, they had made them. So Brea was the reserve for the triathlon, for the team triathlon, and so she was already in Paris. Her boyfriend came up to support, and then Maddie was there as well, and. Scotty was supposed to. Brea had actually made these T-shirts and printed them out in Spain where they were basing, and Scotty forgot to bring them to Paris, and so the morning of the final, it was Scotty, where are the T-shirts? And so then apparently there was this huge So then Maddie and Brea pretty much had this huge mission to go around Paris trying to find a T-shirt printer who would do these T-shirts, and the guy was kind of a bit weird as well about them because it's just all these random, it's just all these people's faces on them. So that was quite good, but yeah, they obviously got it done and wore them, and I didn't realise until I got out there and looked up in the crowd and saw them all wearing them, and yeah, it's just typical those guys.
It must have made you feel really good.
Yeah, it was. It's
really cool.
It's a bit weird when they walk out in the morning still wearing them. So from time to time because we all still live together. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see that kind of stuff happen.
What do you like? What would Maddie say you're like in the lead up to a competition? Just before the Olympic qualifying or the World Champ qualifying or whatever. Are you? Is there a significant change in your demeanour?
You'd have to ask her. I honestly, I think I'm pretty driven. I get pretty focused in that time. I'm probably not the best boyfriend at that moment. I think as the years have gone by and kind of our relationships matured and grown, it's been much better. But yeah, I feel like for me when I'm in that mode. Usually we don't spend a lot of time together. She'll come over, she'll support, but I'll always make sure that my mum is there as well, or some of her friends are there. So there's people for her to hang out with because in that moment, that's when I'm working and I'm busy, and so yeah, it's gotten to the point where she can support me in that moment now. But I think once you get to that kind of that top of the peak, the air gets pretty thin, and you have to really make sure your energy's on. So yeah, I get quite kind of narrow-minded in my thinking and in my burn of my energy, and so a lot of stuff gets managed from Jimmy and my agent, and kind of nothing else really gets done and gets passed through to me other than performance stuff.
I had Nico Porteous on the podcast recently, winter gold medalist, and he just talked about the crippling anxiety he'd have in the lead up to a competition. There'd be some nights where he'd be at the Olympics and he'd just be awake all night talking to his mum, her sort of counselling him through it. What do you like? You sleep well the night before a big event, or?
I sleep better nowadays. I think for me, my gut gets really bad, so I just can't hold food down. And so for sort of one of the overarching feelings when I finish a comp is I just want to have like a proper feed, because it's like the first time in like a week that I've actually been able to hold food. And so, yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things. But for me as well, like when I'm in that that really high level mode, when I'm like peaking and you know, everything is on, my body just aches. Like you'd think that a peak, like when you're in your freshest moment, like everything should feel like super amazing, and yet I always, you know, every time I get through into that massive competition, my body just feels like it's like one or two bad jumps away from breaking. And so I think for me, there's just that massive neural kind of that neurally strung feeling of everything you're just super aware of. Every time you kind of step out of bed wrong, you know, your knee might start hurting or something, you know, that those things just, you know, get
like phantom pains.
Yeah, and they just like something that might just be a tiny little ache, you know, any other time of the year just becomes amplified, and so you're just constantly kind of trying to talk your brain and your body down. So yeah, for me, it's just like I get to the end of a comp, and I'm just in so much pain. But for me, I also know, and I've gotten kind of better at identifying that that's when I'm in the best shape. And so I know that it's my body's way of knowing something big is about to happen and kind of trying to shy away from it and give myself an out. And so if I can like lean into that and really kind of push through it, that's often when I get my best performances.
Have you done much work with a sports psychologist?
So I've got a mental skills coach.
Oh, mental skills.
Yeah, so Quinny is my mental skills coach. He's based in Christchurch. And yeah, a lot of that work is done with him around, you know, like how should you feel in these big moments, and you know, kind of what are the things that you can bring yourself back to, and how can you ground yourself and rely and trust and enable the confidence and all the things we've done before that moment. And so I think for me that's what's really changed over the last few years is when I get into those tough moments, instead of trying to clutch at something that's not there, it's about having the confidence to just remind myself that I've done this all before, and having to just almost bring myself back down to real life and just being able to kind of work through that. So yeah, it's pretty tough. At times, like obviously I've had some pretty big jumps in the last 12 months where it's all been on the line, but you know, with the work that I do with Quinny, it definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, what's the sort of relationship there? Like, do you text him or call when needed, or you have regular appointments?
We call pretty often. I'd say like probably once every couple of weeks. I wouldn't say it's like, you know, I'm not calling him every day, every week. I feel like you know, a lot of the time I know what I'm doing. But yeah, it's just around like him challenging me on my language and constantly, you know, reminding me that I need to continue to grow and build as an athlete. And I think for me that's probably the biggest kind of mental skills thing that we often talk about as like the context of sport within my life, and kind of reminding me that it's something that I'm deeply connected to and something that I've worked really hard to get to. But at the end of the day, like, you know, is it going to change my life? These opportunities and these moments, and I think it will to a point. But at the same time, you know, whether or not I succeed or fail, you know, I'm still the same person, and I still have the same friends and family, and you know, the sun still rises each morning, and the birds are still chirping, and you know, I think for me, you know, that's my biggest thing that I ground myself into in those big moments is regardless of what happens, I'm going to wake up the next morning and continue on with life and have all those same feelings that I've had. You know, maybe there'll be a little bit more disappointment or a little bit more happiness, but at the same time, I'm still going to be me. So yeah.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, and this is probably quite refreshing to hear, when you win, people remember. A lot of people will, some people won't. But if you lose, no one remembers.
Yeah. Well, yes, it is kind of like the reality, right? And I think, look, this year is a perfect example of that. Is you know, at the start of the year, I didn't win at all. I came off last year. I had a lot of time off after the Olympics, and that was something that was really important for me because I needed to sit with my success and sit with, you know, what had happened, and then once I started training again and starting to move through, I was able to. Yeah, I didn't start training until quite late in the off season, and so I was just underprepared, and I came between about 10th and 6th or 5th in all of my first 4 Diamond Leagues. And so, yeah, you know, objectively, it's not a great season for an Olympic champion, and you know, all these things were happening, and one of the other guys, the South Korean Woo, was winning everything, and then you get to World Champs. He was undefeated. I had only just started kind of winning, and then I end up winning World Champs. And, you know, at the end of the day, people are going to remember this season as the season that I won World Champs, not the season that he only won one comp. So, yeah, it's about when it matters, which is the most important thing.
Yes, since we're on the psychology side of things, so there was a story I read on Women's Day that you did with your girlfriend Maddie, and there was a line in there that caught my attention, which I wanted to drill down a little bit. The line from you was, "My sense of self is something I've always struggled with." What does that mean?
I think there's a few like kind of takes on that, but I think firstly the fact that I never saw high jump as a career or something that could be a full-time occupation. I always felt like there should be something else, like I shouldn't just be a high jumper, and so I was always trying to sort of shy away from that tag, you know, that professional athlete or elite athlete tag for a long time, and it's taken like even sort of like past the Tokyo Olympics and into kind of Birmingham, you know, 2022, I was still quite resistant to call myself an elite athlete, which is weird because I was like I was full time in that, and I think it was because I just never saw this as something that should be a career. I feel like my thinking was probably quite traditional, you know, coming from a family of doctors and professionals in their own rights. Like I think potentially that fed into it a wee bit of the sense of like, yeah, that's great, you're playing sport, but like what's happening in your studies or like what's happening in all the rest of your life? And so, yeah, it took me a long time to contend with that. And I think as well, like, you know, deep down, you know, I was probably a little bit cynical about the effect that sport could have on society and on other people. And so, you know, I thought it was great that I was doing all these things, but I never really understood why other people didn't get celebrated the same as me. And again, an example of that is in 2022, I won Com Games for the first time, but my older sister also graduated medical school. So, you know, she'd been working for 10 years of her life towards, you know, getting this amazing achievement. And now she's in a position where she's going to be helping, you know, thousands of people, you know, actual change their life, you know, save people's lives. And yet at Christmas, everyone wanted to ask me about Com Games, and, you know, no one was really super interested in that. And so I think for me, like, there was always kind of this cynical nature of what I do and kind of what does it really matter at the end of the day, and so that sense of self of getting celebrated and getting put up as this athlete of, you know, and this person who's done these amazing things, when I've you know, firsthand seen all these amazing things that other people do and never really get celebrated for was something that I thought was quite hard. And yeah, I'm getting better at it for sure. Like I feel like now I don't think about it a lot. I'm so busy. You know, my energy is pretty you know, between training and recovering and then everything else I do, I don't have a lot of time to think about you know, the wide world and everything else that's going on it. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting concept. But yeah, one that I've just had to deal with.
It's interesting, eh? So like winner's guilt in a way.
Yeah, a little bit. Guilt. Like, yeah, I think at the end of the day, like I think I just feel like a person, you know. I do what I do. I get up each morning and I have my coffee and my breakfast, and then I go and work really hard at my job, and then I come home and you know, do what I need to do to recover and get ready for the next part of it. And I'm good at reviewing that process and working out kind of where the gaps are and where I need to get to for the next part. But I just feel like I'm just a person. So yeah, I think when I get to meet all these amazing people nowadays, you know, whether it's business leaders or other athletes or you know, doctors, lawyers, all these kinds of people, like I love hearing their story, and I love seeing what they're doing at their level of their career, and I think that's the most important thing for me, is that as humans, like, you know, if we're just getting better and if we're improving, doesn't really matter what it is. Like I just see that as a massive win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Constant self-improvement, eh? Just a little bit each day. That's all you can hope for. What does an average day or week look like?
Yeah, so kind of depends what time of the year it is, but most of the time when I'm in like heavy training with no competitions, it'll be jumping twice a week. So I jump on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Then I'm in the gym 3 times a week, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then I do like running and then track-based stuff on Thursday, and then a little bit on Tuesday and a little bit on Saturday. So that's pretty much my training week. So it's about 6 days, and then I have...
How many hours all up, you reckon?
Not a huge amount. Like, I mean, I'm a power eventer, so like it's not about how many hours you put in, it's about the quality of those hours. And so I'd say we do about 2 to 3 hours a day. Not the whole time. We've got breaks in there, and we're having lots of recovery in between. But yeah, between about 2 and 3 hours a day. And then Sunday is almost the most important day of the week. That's my recovery day. And so that's the day where I don't do anything. I make sure that I'm getting my body ready for what's to come for the next week. So yeah, that's essentially my training week. It's always training in the mornings and then recovering in the afternoons. And my recovery in the afternoons is often just going home and lying on the couch, which is the best part of my job. I love that bit. So.
Yeah, but being in this environment, and like I don't know, I suppose like being in the that Olympic sphere and seeing a whole lot of other professional athletes and a whole lot of different disciplines. Yeah, what's high jump like compared to others in terms of like training? I'm thinking swimming's got to be one of the worst, eh?
Yeah,
in terms of time involved.
Yeah, it's often it depends on like how long your event is, and so generally like the longer you go, so whether it's like 1,500 meter running, 5,000 meter running, marathon running, and then the same swimming. It's like the length of the time, the rowers, like all these guys, like generally you'd have to do more and more training. And so, yeah, I mean, it's funny. I know Geordie Beamish really well. We've been on tour heaps in the last few years, and he always jokes with me because like as a runner, they're always like running. Like they'll run every single morning, and then they'll go and do a workout in the afternoon. And like he'll just be sitting there, be like, "Oh, what do you got today? Like another rest day?" Like it's just, it's great, but it's just like that's just the realities of what we do. Like for me, it's about like recovery, whereas for those guys it's about mileage. And I think honestly like probably the worst sport for it, in my opinion, would be rowing. And the reason for that is they have to wake up so bloody early. Like I couldn't do that, eh?
Yeah, so early and such long sessions as well.
Yeah, such long sessions. You're outdoors in the rain, hail and shine, just getting it done. And yeah, my hat goes, props to them. My heart goes out to them.
So you're at peace with the sport you chose to do?
Oh, massively, yeah. But I think within that as well, it's we've got this really weird balance of like a lot of the time it's just grind. Like for probably 8 months a year, it's like you're pretty much just trying to standardize your day as best as possible. It's like it's like just how can you get through the monotony of waking up every single morning and doing the exact same thing. And then for 4 months, it's like crazy. It's like the highest, there's like almost no pressure in the 8 months. There's pressure to come, but it's like in that 8 months, it's just about building the engine and building what's to come. And then that 4 months, it's just like the most ultimate stress test for that. And then it just becomes really, really like highly intense. And I think that a lot of athletes, they'll thrive in either one of those zones, but kind of struggle to really kind of get amongst it when, either you're really good at the habitual stuff, the grind, the just being able to not think about stuff and just turn up and get it done, or you're like really high, you're quite a highly strung person to begin with and you're really good in that moment, but you kind of can't really get it together for the first bit. But I think for me, like that's one of my big strengths is that I thrive in both those spaces. Like I love my habit, I love my routine, I love like kind of just turning up and just doing the exact same thing every day, but I get bored of that. And then like once I get bored of that, then I love like just the intense nature of competitions. So
what's the best and worst thing about it?
Best and worst thing, so
winning.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like what the best thing, actually no, I know what the best thing is. The best thing is like getting to a point where you're so keyed into a comp that you don't know what day it is. So like we'll have times where I'll be doing like a shakeout session before a comp, or like a after doing a big travel day, we'll do like a little like kind of body movement thing, and like we'll go to the pool and do a bit of like movement stuff, and often in those days like we'll turn up to the track and like there's no one there, and you're like, why is no one here? And then you realize it's like Sunday or something. It's just like a day where like everyone else is like hanging out for the weekend, and like I just wouldn't have a clue what day it is in those moments. And so I think for me that's the best thing, because it's like that's when I'm just like at ultimate peace with what I've got. It's like all I know is that I've got 6 days to the next comp, or 4 days since the last one, or it just becomes that mode. So that's the best thing. I think the worst thing is definitely the travel though. Like I love traveling, I love being away, but I'm away from my family and away from my friends for a long time. So yeah, it will always be the hardest thing for me, is still being able to be connected to everyone back home while I'm out there doing what I need to do.
When did you genuinely believe you could be the best in the world?
I think like deep down, I've kind of always known that I will be as good as I put my energy to. Every year it was like, let's just put a bit more energy towards this, and I got better and better. And so I kind of think, deep down, there's probably this arrogance of knowing that I could always be the best or one of the best. But, to truly believe that and truly realize that it's a reality, was probably something that I keyed into last year at the start of the year, when I won World Indoors, and then kind of leading towards the Olympics. I knew that I was in really good shape, and that was the first time I really sort of saw that opportunity and that reality start to take shape.
Awesome. What's the biggest failure or disappointment that you've had to bounce back from in your career so far? Has there been like a rock bottom?
Yeah, there has. So Budapest 2023, when I failed to make the final, was my rock bottom for sure. I came off the track. I was pretty blindsided. Like I thought I was in good shape. Like I thought I was ready to jump 230, 235, and I actually, I was, because the evidence was that then I went to a comp 2 weeks later and jumped 233, but in that moment I only jumped 220, and so that was a massive failure for me. But the more I delved into it, the more I realized that failure was in my process, and the failure was in the energy I'd actually given that season. I'd cut corners. I hadn't done what I needed to do. My recovery wasn't as good as I should have. I didn't put enough energy towards that. I didn't turn up to training ready to go each day and make sure that I was doing that 8 months of monotony correctly, and so that was definitely the worst time. I was gutted. I was so lucky Maddie was there, and I moved out of the team hotel and just spent a week with her, and then went to Croatia actually, and had a holiday and just didn't think about the sport for a week or two, which was just really, really needed. But yeah, I think now that I look back on it, like I wouldn't have won the Olympics if I didn't do that as well. Like that was the moment that I had to have that moment to then kind of come out of the fire like a phoenix. It's like you have to burn everything down to kind of really strip it back and really understand like what's going on, and if I didn't have that moment, I wouldn't be here. Like it just wouldn't have gone the same way. I probably would have realized it. Like I would have had that failure somewhere along the line. It probably would have been at the Olympics, and then that would have been so much more catastrophic. That I was just lucky I was able to kind of catch that when I did. And yeah, it's definitely tough, but at the same time, I think the more you lean into those negative times and those moments, that's when you get the most growth. And so yeah, I think that's something that will be a challenge for us this year, and was a challenge last year. Was you get so much success, how do you keep pushing, and how do you sort of still break it down and go, okay, that's great, but what did we set out to do? Did we really achieve that? And if so, how do we continue? And if not, how do we really like kind of look at that and really understand how can we be better? Because otherwise, if you just kind of go out there and just hope that you will do well, you'll always find something positive about it. So it's about really trying to like hone into that achievement stuff and make sure you're really trying to set something down so you can review it.
What's that old saying, like failure is a stepping stone to success? Yeah, that's interesting. So that was after we had the podcast last time. So do you think after the Commonwealth Games medal, you were sort of, I don't know, believing your own hype or something going into the Budapest thing, or? Yeah,
I think I definitely got soft. Like not soft. Like it wasn't that bad, but it was just like it was almost that case of like I'd finally got my foot in the door. I thought I'd arrived. Whereas nowadays it's like I really like believe that it's like once you get that foot in the door, that's when you actually have to try the hardest. Like that's when it only starts to matter. And so I think for me, 2022 was getting a little sense of that and get a little understanding of what it would be like to win and compete at a high level. But I still kind of wasn't really there. Like I still didn't have the goods to jump into the high 30s and compete with those guys when they are all really at their best. And so it took a wee bit of time to get through that, but thankfully I had the right people in my team, and then we were able to work through that as a unit, and now I'm here. So it wasn't something that I felt like I look back on that and I don't have any regrets with how it went. Like I don't feel like 2023 was a failure because I didn't get the results that I wanted. I see it as a massive success because it was a time where I had to transition from an athlete who was good and could win from time to time to like being like, okay, but that's not what I want to be. I want to be an athlete who is the best and wins, when it really matters all the time. So I look back on that time with a bit of pain, but at the same time, a huge amount of pride, I suppose, with how we were able to kind of get through that and grow as a person and grow as an athlete.
Well, it led you to so much good stuff after that. And let's get into the Paris Olympics now. So, how is it? Were you there for the opening ceremony? Were you on the boat?
No, I wasn't, thankfully.
Why? Did you intentionally avoid the hype of the Olympic opening ceremony?
So the high jump was the last day of the Olympics. So 2 weeks before. So 2 weeks after the opening ceremony was when we were competing, and so it was just a little bit early for me to get in there. Often we will get into like the games village or like that performance kind of space only about 3 days before, and so I was actually in the UK with Jimmy, just having a little kind of training block before we came into Paris. So it was quite nice. Like we sort of watched a little bit of it, but we're probably kind of like more interested in just chilling out and watching movies and just hanging out as mates. So
to be fair, like I think it's the best opening ceremony ever, but it's definitely made for TV rather than made for being there. I think if you were there on the boat with your poncho on, you would have seen fuck all.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think like they've always said. So I've never actually been to an opening ceremony because we're always second week, and so
and also the 2021 games, your first games, they were the COVID games.
COVID games. So we weren't even in Japan at the time. COVID games. We landed in Tokyo, and then like transferred through to like another plane to like then fly to where our pre-camp was, like when the opening ceremony was on, which was a bit depressing, but that's just the realities of it. But the often what happens at an opening ceremony as well is there's like heaps of sitting around. And so like even in the closing ceremony of the Olympics when I was there, like you're just standing there, like my back was killing me because I just competed. My body was destroyed and we were just standing there waiting for so long. And so that was actually the good thing about being on the boat was that I think a lot of the athletes were able to just like sit down and just kind of like cruise through, which is quite cool. But the awesome thing about LA is that they've swapped athletics and swimming. And so we're now first week, swimming's now second week. So I will be able to get to an opening ceremony.
Oh, fantastic! So you better get it done and then just party.
Yes, yeah, I will.
So did you stay in the games village at all, or?
Yeah. So I've stayed in the games village both Olympics, and that's just a crazy experience. Like I don't know. I feel like that's the coolest thing about the Olympics is being able to kind of go into that space and just see it for yourself. And obviously, there's so many stories around what it's like and the things that go on and all the rest of it. But yeah, to be able to actually get in there and see it for yourself is super, super special. And I think this time around, obviously I was going there to perform and I was probably more focused on that, but I definitely remember in Tokyo getting there and just being in awe of all these amazing athletes walking around. And it's pretty crazy because you get in that space and like there's sports, like there's such a huge range of sports from like weightlifting to gymnastics to basketball to like there's just every single body type in the world. There's like every single different like like culture, religion, race, like all these kinds of things. Like it's just this melting pot of just like all these high performance athletes essentially. And so yeah, it was quite cool. Like I think my overarching feeling when I was in the Tokyo Games and then definitely again in Paris was just a sense of belonging in a way. Like I think that was when it really connected with me that like I'd earned my spot there and I'd kind of got there and that was kind of my life now. So yeah, that was something that was really cool and something that I really hope that Maddie gets to do in LA as well, because yeah, it's something you can't explain it to someone. That feeling of getting there and realizing that's your space as well as the space that you've kind of heard about for your entire life about what happens and all the people and just everything that goes on. So yeah, to be able to be there and be present is very special. So
did you fanboy over anyone? Or did you see? No, even if not taking a photo of them, but did you see anyone and be like, "Oh shit, there's Roger Federer"? Or
yeah, so a lot of the top people like stay outside the village, and they'll come in maybe for like a day or two and just kind of experience it. But often, all the American basketballers will stay away, and all the others. But it's funny, I'm a big cycling fan. And so a couple of the real top cyclists were there. They were just leaving actually when we kind of got to the village in Paris. So that was like probably the main one I was real like stoked about, which is real niche, but
so niche. Yeah. How would anyone recognise them either? Like without the helmet and the lycra.
Yeah, well, that's true, isn't it? Yeah, no, but that was quite cool. But no, I mean, look, there's so many athletes you'll recognise there. Like it's like if you're going to get overawed by athletes, like you're going to spend so much energy because there is just like every time you walk down the street, there's just someone you recognise. So yeah, it's a pretty cool space.
And do you play internal head games like guess the sport? So you see like a tiny little girl, you think gymnastics. You see someone like you're like high jump.
We definitely do. Like there was this area where they had like a coffee shop in Paris, like in the middle of the village, and it's like everything's free, so you just go down and you just grab a coffee and just park up, and me and the boys would kind of go down there every morning after breakfast and just sit there for like an hour and just like look at everyone going past. Like you just people watch. It's just so fun. But yeah, there's definitely some crazy people that do some crazy things in that village, that's for sure.
And what sort of conversations do you have with other athletes, like New Zealanders or even strangers you meet? Do you like you talking about the psychology of sport, or are you talking about like mental skills, techniques, or anything, or is it just small talk?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that I love about the Olympics is, we spend so much time away from New Zealand and in our own kind of little bubble of track and field. And there are Kiwis, there are a lot of Kiwis who are there, but they're people you know quite well. And so to be able to kind of come into this village and then suddenly there's 200 other New Zealand athletes there, that's something that I really value is being able to kind of have those conversations with Kiwis in their sports. And I mean, it's funny, like I don't really see a lot of New Zealand athletes when I'm in New Zealand. It's more overseas because that's their space and that's where they're competing. So yeah, I love just chatting with Kiwi athletes and working out what their schedules are like and what their challenges are and the things that they've had to do to get to where they get to, and it's always unique depending on what sport, and it depends how often you compete a year, and whether you compete too much or too little, or all these different things. And so it's pretty cool to be able to kind of sit there and meet all these really like-minded people. So yeah.
So your qualifying day is August 7, and then the final was 3 days later on the 10th of August. So 6th of August, do you sleep okay?
No. Qualifying rounds for me are terrible. I hate them. I still do, even though I've kind of put it to bed a wee bit now. But yeah, that's the moment I'll always be the most stressed, is going into those qualifying rounds. So
do you take like a Zopiclone the night before or anything, or
no? You just live with it. You just sleep with it. Like I think for me, like I always know that if I'm in bed just like staring at the wall, I'm getting better recovery than if I'm not. And so I try and just take it with a grain of salt and just lie there for as long as possible and just get through it. But yeah, like I think the reason I hate qualifying rounds is like there's kind of nothing to succeed from a qualifying round. You can't win the games. You can't do a record, or you can't do this amazing performance. All you can do is fail. It's like you either advance or you fail. And so it's kind of this sort of really crappy kind of like nuggety sort of mindset of just like do enough to get through, and then in 3 days' time you can then show all the things you've been working on. And so that's why I hate it, because it's a time where failure is pretty front and center of your mind. It's the only thing you can really get out of the qualifying. So yeah, it's weird. So yeah, don't sleep well before qualifyings. Even this year in Tokyo, I was much more nervous before the qualifying than I was the final. But yeah, it's just something we've got to do, right?
Yeah, I had Lewis Clarebird, the swimmer, on the podcast maybe a couple of years ago, and he talked about lack of sleep the night before, and I think his coach or his mental skills coach said to him, look, one bad night's sleep is not going to undo months and months of training. Like, you're going to be fine. Yeah. And yeah, with adrenaline on the day, you're going to be fine, which sort of like reframed it for him, which was good. So so what happened to you on August 7? Like, why did you do so badly? Is this where you became a meme? Where you did that dive under the bar?
No, that was still the final. Yeah, so even in my greatest success, I still become a meme. But no, like I think the qualifying round. So you look back on my world champs record. So before this year, I went to World Champs in Doha. Didn't make the final. So bombed out. I didn't bomb out in qualifying because it was my first ever World Champs. I feel like I was there to experience it and there to kind of enjoy it. And so didn't do great there. 2022 didn't make the final. 2023 didn't make the final. And so I had this record of failure in qualifying rounds essentially. The only qualifying that I had got through was actually the Tokyo Olympics. So that was what I was trying to remind myself is like, yeah, but in the Olympics you've got a good qualifying round or good qualifying record. But so going into that qualifying round, I think that I definitely didn't put the right amount of energy into it. Like I was trying to hold back energy knowing that I'd need it in a few days' time. Given that year had been so good for me, I won a bunch of Diamond League events, which is our professional series. I won a bunch of them before the games. I won World Indoors. I was one of the best jumpers of the year. Like I had almost the best height for the year. And I actually was world number one ranked going into the games. And that was the first time I'd ever been world number one ranked, was going into that qualifying round. And so I think for me, like I was just a little bit, I just didn't treat it with enough seriousness and enough kind of energy and really kind of make sure that I was doing what I needed to do. So in my mind, I was getting in and then just getting out as quick as possible. And so I was just trying to hurry through the round. I didn't really feel like I was super present or like super like accepting of the fact that I was going to be there for a long time. Qualifying rounds always take ages. They usually take like 2 to 3 hours, and you might only do like 4 or 5 jumps, which is not a lot for us. And so there's a lot of sitting there, conserving energy, mental energy, physical energy, nutrition, all these kinds of things. And I just didn't do any of it because I just thought that I was better than that. And so first couple of jumps were decent. I think the progression was like 214, 217, 220. Cleared it, 214, all good, 217, all good, came to 220, and I still was just hurrying through my jumps. So I was running too fast. I wasn't in the right position, and first attempt I missed the bar. So I didn't clear, and it was just a bad jump. Like there wasn't anything wrong about the way I jumped or anything. It was just that I didn't ground myself, think about my cues, think about how fast I was running, and just try and bring myself back down to a speed that was more appropriate for that height. And so missed it, went and sat down, didn't like try and reset, didn't think about it. It was just like, all good, I've got it, next one. Like no real thought about like why I did what I did, what changes I need to make, and all these intentional cues that we work so hard to do. It was just like, all good, like I'm better than that, I'll get it next time. And so then second attempt, like literally mid run up, my leg like buckled a wee bit, and it was just from the terror of like knowing, like suddenly realizing like where I was at, and like that I hadn't kind of given myself the right amount of kind of mental energy and right amount of kind of seriousness towards this competition. And so buckled, and then ultimately like wasn't even close to clearing the bar in that second attempt. I barely even took off, and so then I was sitting there faced with one more attempt at 220. How
much downtime do you have between jump 2 and jump 3?
It felt like a million years. It might have only been 5 to 10 minutes. Right. But in that space, it felt like a long time.
Because if you miss that third jump, that's it, you're done.
That's it, I'm done, yeah. And that would have been, of all that didn't qualify for the finals, that would have been the worst one. It would have been the lowest height that I hadn't qualified I hadn't cleared in a qualifying round. Given I was world number one, it would have been something that was pretty catastrophic. And I think deep down what I knew as well was that it was always something that was a chink in my armour, that qualifying round and that mental game of just having to advance. And knowing how well I'd been going that year and how hard we'd worked to get what we needed to get to, I knew that if I didn't clear that bar, that would have been it. Like I wouldn't have continued competing, because like how do you continue competing when you know deep down there's this little bit of you that won't front up when it really matters. And so this was what I was thinking about. Was like, maybe I just don't have what it takes. Maybe, I can do all of these, maybe I've got the best team in the world. I've got, this amazing amount of training behind me. I've got all these different, I suppose, techniques that we've been working on to really like frame things and make it kind of work and really optimize my performance. And yet when it really, really matters, when the pressure is on me, I just don't have what it takes.
This is all going through your mind in between jumps 2 and jump 3.
Yeah. So I was like the tears had started flowing,
really?
Essentially. And in that moment, I walked over to Jimmy and I was just like, man, I'd pretty much resigned to the fact that I wasn't going to clear it. I was just like, oh well, I guess we're just going home. And so yeah, I went over to Jimmy and just like I literally I was like a kid, like I buried my head in his chest and he just like held me and he was just like, bro, you've got this. Like just slow it down, deep breaths, you've got this. Like this jump's there, it's easy, like you'll be fine. And so I was able to slow my breathing, go back to my techniques, be present. I do a lot of mindfulness, so it was around my breath and around, seeing what, I look at people in the crowd and like see what funny outfits I can find and, just try and do all these things that kind of like bring me back down to like, this is reality and this is just, where we're at. And so I did a lot of that, and actually I was really lucky. I was sitting next to one of my really good mates, who's a German high jumper, Tobias, and he had no-hided because he was injured going into it. And so he was sitting there essentially just like watching, but also like kind of helping me and giving me, and he was just like, bro, like you're just running too fast, like just chill, it's all good. And so just being able to hear him say that, and then also Jimmy, I looked Jimmy right in the eyes and he just like, I could tell that he's like, you got this. And so I kind of handed it over to Jimmy, like I wasn't thinking about anything in that time. And so, yeah, was still crying. I was able to console myself and steel myself at the top of my mark. And
crying externally or just internally?
Yeah. Like I literally I was wearing my sunglasses because I had tears in my eyes because I was just so scared. Like I was at the edge of the abyss. I was looking down into this dark hole of my entire career of all this work that I'd done, potentially just not been enough. And maybe there was just this bit inside me that didn't have what it takes.
Would that have made you the C word? Like a choker?
Yeah, it would have. Yeah, for sure. I think that was definitely and I think as well, like, I mean, there's so many things that I was thinking about, and for me, I was obviously really gutted from a personal perspective. But I look back on that moment, and I was definitely aware of the fact that I compete with the same boys a lot, and I love them to bits, and we spend so much time on tour together. But like I knew that I wouldn't get the respect by doing that. Like that would have been like, Hamish is a good guy, but he doesn't really have what it takes, and I think that really kind of weighed on me, and was something that we've done a lot of work on, trying to be more dangerous and someone that they look towards and are scared of. So yeah, to have done all that work and then still be the choker, like you said, was pretty, it was a pretty intense moment. And so yeah, I stood at that mark, just deep breathing, reminding myself of where I was at and trying to just be as present as possible. When I scraped over the bar, I was able to bring out just enough of a jump as I needed, and I scraped over the bar. And the funny thing with that was that wasn't the end of qualifying. So to qualify, we ended up having to jump 228, and so that still wasn't even enough to qualify, and yet I just had this huge dump of emotion and adrenaline, and so
just bought you more time.
It essentially, well, it didn't really buy me more time, because since I was I was one of the only guys who actually had to jump in that third round. I pretty much had to lace back up and jump in the first round of the next height. So, all the other boys were sitting there kind of waiting and conserving energy, and I'd sort of just had this huge dump of adrenaline. Mm-hmm. And, afterwards, and then it was funny actually, because ultimately I got it together by 228 and I cleared 228 first attempt. And so when you look at the qualifying round, like the final scorecard, I was like the second highest qualifier because I cleared it first attempt. There was only a couple of guys who cleared it first attempt, and so like a lot of people back home who didn't watch it, like they kind of looked at it and texted me. They're like, "Oh, yeah, nice work, mate! Like got it done."
Never doubted you.
And it was like that was like I was honestly the most tired that I've ever been after that qualifying round. Like I went through media and I was talking to a couple of the New Zealand media guys and I think it was actually Miles. Miles was there, I'm pretty sure, and he asked me, he's like, "Oh mate, how you feel? Like, what was going on in your mind and stuff?" And I had nothing. Like usually you've got a little bit of energy there for to be able to talk through what's happened and reflect on stuff. And I was just like staring at him, just like, I don't know, like I just genuinely did not have anything left in the tank. And so then it's quite funny because I was trying to keep some energy in the tank for the final, and that probably meant that I went in underdone, and then I was able to kind of get over it just in time, but use like everything in that moment. But reflecting on that now and when I talked to when I talked to Quinny afterwards, that was the perfect way to put that qualifying stigma to bed. I instead of just going in there and breezing through, first attempting everything, no dramas, happy days, move on. Like we had to test that new version of Hamish and that new kind of way of working and not just turning up and hoping, but also, turning up expecting and turning up and knowing what you need to do to get the right performance. And so, yeah, that if I hadn't done that third attempt, I wouldn't have won because like that was the moment I had to look within myself and know deep down it is there. And then when I was able to kind of talk my way back from that cliff edge, then I kind of knew that anything was possible.
Because watching it on the TV, like I mean, geez, thanks so much for sharing these insights of what was going through your mind. It sounds bloody harrowing at the time, but watching it on TV, I'd have no idea. But I can't imagine how tough. I can see now why your mum had to go outside and was unable to watch it. Yep. What about your girlfriend and your friends in the stand? How's it for them?
Yeah, well, that was a bit of a mistake. I kind of looked up to them after the second attempt, and my siblings were all there. So my older sister, my young brother and sister, and then Maddie was there as well. And my older sister and Maddie were like hugging each other. And like I could tell Maddie was crying as well. And that was one of the hardest moments as well. Was looking up and being like, oh shit, I shouldn't have seen that. Like, like it's just made it so much worse. But yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, like, yeah, those are the moments that you live for as well, like a little bit in like a kind of sick way. Like I think that's the thing that I love about my sport is it makes me feel alive and it makes me really feel something. And I always know that, the day that I experience a huge amount of failure and go home and wake up the next morning and I'm not gutted, that's the day that I need to give it away because that's the day I don't care enough about it. And so I think that was a big thing that I was trying to remind myself through that moment as well, is that like the fact you're feeling this way is because you really, really care and that you really, really want to be here. And seeing my friends and my family in the crowd, reacting so heavily to it as well shows that they know how much it means to me as well. And so, yeah, I think that's sort of a way of framing those emotions for me and those dark moments is you've got all the tools that you need to get through this moment, and you really want to. So, yeah, all you can do is try.
Yeah, so qualifying August 7, then the finals August 10. What do those 3 days look like?
Well, they were supposed to look like about a day and a half of recovery and then a day and a half of so you kind of like day and a half of just getting yourself back to base level after the hardship of the qualifying round, and then a day and a half of kind of getting up optimally to where you need to be for that final. But that changed a wee bit after that qualifying round. It was more like 2.5 days of just recovery and sleeping, and I caught up with my family that afternoon because it was a morning qualifying. So that afternoon I went and caught up with them, and then I pretty much just lay in bed for 2 days. I was just smoked. I was so tired. And then our last day before qualifying round, before the final, I was sort of able to do some movement stuff and kind of get up for it. But I think at the end of the day, like as well, like I knew how to win a final. Like I'd been doing that all season. Like when we go to a Diamond League or a World Indoors, like it's a single event. There's 8 to 12 guys. It's about the last man standing. And so I knew how to do that. Like I've done that plenty of times. It's the qualifying that's the hardest because you're essentially just jumping until there's 12 guys left. And so that mindset shift gave me a lot of freedom because I knew that it was something that I'd done before. I was confident. I knew what I was doing. And so, yeah, it was pretty crazy, like going into the qualifying round versus going into the final. Like I was just a completely different athlete. In the final, I was, at the warm-up track, I was just, throwing a frisbee around with Jimmy and just mucking around, and we're actually watching the golf as well because Lydia was still playing. So yeah, just being able to kind of like disassociate from what was about to happen. Whereas in the final, in the qualifying, I was just far too serious. I got there, I was just like didn't want to talk to anyone, was wanting to like just get into my work, and I know that kind of looking back on that and reflecting more and what we do now, it's like when I'm happy and I'm enjoying myself and just want to be there, that's when I do the best.
So many good learnings, that you can take forward for the rest of your career. Okay, yeah, so the final on August 10. How long are you out on the track for? How long are you there? So you drop your phone and your things off in the changing room. Do you have earplugs or headphones or?
Yeah, so you drop all that stuff at call room.
So you're just out there with nothing?
Yeah. So just you and your thoughts and your mates. Which, I mean, that's why as high jumpers we are so tight, is that we spend a lot of time on track together. And it's quite start-stop sometimes when there's races on. You have to stop to make sure that, they get their time in the sun and all the rest of it. So it's it does take a long time. I think I'm not quite sure for Tokyo, but in Paris, the World Champs that we had just recently, I left the hotel at 2 p.m. and I left the stadium, so I finished like drug testing and stuff at 12. So
wow,
midnight.
10 hours.
So it's a 10 hours when you're like on, because like obviously like through that moment there's like all these different things happening. So energy management is a massive thing for us. We're allowed to take food out. So we always have food and drink and gels and various different kind of nutrition strategies to take out with us. But yeah, in that Paris comp, there was probably, I think we jumped into call room 60 minutes before event starts. So you do kind of half an hour of movement stuff out on the warm-up track. Then you go in, you go through that, takes about 20 minutes. Then you get out onto the track, so you got 40 minutes. That's when you do all your jumping, so like your warm-up jumping. So we usually would do like 2 to 3 jumps before the competition, just to make sure your marks, your run-ups in the right place, and you've got a feel for the track and all these different things. And then once the comp starts, I think that comp ended up taking close to 3 hours. So yeah, you think that if you start an hour and a half before that, like it's almost a 4.5 hour effort through to ultimately what's the last jump. And it's a very different mindset, and the way that I've had to change a lot for the last few years is that like the winning jump in high jump is always the last jump, and so the winning jump is always after 3.5 hours of competition. And so as a junior athlete, as someone who comes into the comp wanting to just jump as high as possible, often those jumps will be in the first couple of rounds. And so like someone who's coming 10th at the Olympics versus someone who's winning the Olympics, the guy who's coming 10th, he might only be jumping for 45 minutes. But then the guy who's winning, he has to jump for 3 hours. And so the mindset shift that has to occur to be a contender is a lot around the energy burn. And so that was something that I had to change a lot in the way that I worked over the last few years, is knowing that the early jumps in the comp are very important, but at the same time they serve a purpose, and their purpose is to get me to the jumps that really matter. And so yeah, it's pretty fascinating, like mindset shift, and also the way that you have to keep hydrated and keep nutrition down and all the rest of it. But I think it means that once you kind of get to that point and you know how to do it, that was why I was so confident in that final, was that I knew what it was like to jump the best heights after 3 hours of competition, and I knew that there were a lot of boys there who potentially hadn't done that a lot that season. And so, yeah, that was something that I was really, really confident of going in.
How many jumps in those few hours?
In the final in Paris, I did 15 jumps.
15 jumps?
Yeah.
Wow.
But often,
so increasingly getting higher.
Yeah, often we'd try and do like a big comp for me would be 10 jumps. But yeah, 15 was obviously pretty unprecedented. But also it kind of like depends on like how high you're jumping. That's kind of more the energy burn. Like for me, anything over 230 when I'm not in good shape is like destroys my body. Like I really feel it the next day. And so in that moment, like in the Paris final, I think I did 3 attempts at 231, one at 234, one at 236, 3 at 2:38, another at 2:38, another at 2:36, like another at 2:34. You know, there's so many over 2:30 that's what really fatigues you. So yeah, but I mean that's just the comp, right?
and with the other competitors in the final, do you all get on pretty well, or is there do you try and get into each other's heads? Are there psychological games?
It's been interesting. Like I think the last few years, there's been a really core group of us who have been coming through the sport together. So there's a couple of guys who are coming to the end of their career, and they've typically been the guys who have done really well. So the 2 Olympic champions in Tokyo are still competing, and they're from an era kind of behind us a little bit, and so we've come through together, which has been super nice. But yeah, I definitely have got the sense the last couple of years, like there's starting to be a few more divisions just around, like, now that some guys, like we kind of all went in there bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and all had confidence that we'd get there, and some of us have kind of kicked on and some of us kind of haven't. So yeah, I think that it does create a wee bit of strain, and there's definitely some interesting kind of dynamics out there on the track just around like who talks, who doesn't, depending on what level of competition it is, and whether someone is sort of focused too much on other people and some people are too focused on themselves. And so yeah, it is very, very fascinating, but I love that. Like that's when I just feel most alive is when we're in this kind of this arena, and everyone's got their own personality and their own way of doing things, and it's just super fascinating to kind of jump on that bandwagon and just get brought along. So
yeah, you look like you're in your element out there, like you're geeing the crowd up, getting the crowd to cheer along, which I find really strange, because most of your jumping training's probably done like in this quiet track in Christchurch with nobody around, no sound. Yeah. And then what you want for competition is the complete opposite of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately, like you have to be good internally. Like you have to know your cues. You have to be confident in your own ability. And so I only use the crowd once I've built that platform. So in a final or in like a Diamond League or in like a big competition, like I'll generally only get the crowd going from kind of high 220s into the 230s. Some guys will from the get-go just like bring the crowd in and try and get as much noise as possible. But for me, it's all about finding my rhythm and finding my timing. And then once I've got that, like the crowd's almost the cherry on top. Like that's the thing that, back home we work on the fundamentals, we work on like all the stuff that's ultimately going to get me over the bar. But then, yeah, being able to kind of share that and put that on display in front of an audience is I mean, it's why we do it, right? Like we do it to show people a good time and get them enjoying our sport and wanting to be athletes as well. So to kind of bring that element in when you're jumping the best is a really cool thing to do.
No, not everyone does that though, eh? Not everyone engages with the crowd.
Yeah, not everybody. But I think it does add to the field. Like
totally.
There's definitely a few guys who I love competing against because they do use the crowd really well. Because I think at the end of the day, like, we're putting on a performance, and given that we're out there for 3 hours, like, we want the crowd engaged. Like, the worst thing is going to a comp where you're jumping and it doesn't really seem like anyone cares. Like, they're all focused on other things. Because there's always lots of stuff going on in an athletics field, athletic stadium. There's always running, there's always other field events going on. And so, like, to get the crowd, like, around you and amongst it and, like, supporting and following along is it makes our job just so much more enjoyable. So yeah, there's definitely certain guys who like I want to compete with because I know they do that. But yeah, it's always a good time when you get it right.
Now, for you, at the pointy end of the Paris Olympics, it was like neck and neck with you and another guy. So you could have split the gold. You could have had a gold medal each, like joint gold medal winners.
Yeah.
Yeah, why didn't you go with that? Like, could you have lived with yourself if you said, no, I want to carry on, fight to the death, and then you went home with the silver? Would you have been okay with that?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was funny, like, obviously, it happened in Tokyo, and it's
really rare, eh? It doesn't happen all the time.
It's super rare. Like, I mean, those two competitions are the only time I've ever been a part of a competition that has gone to a jump off. And I mean, obviously in Tokyo, I wasn't part of that jump off, or there never was a jump off. But those are the only two competitions I've ever been a part of where it's been to it. So like, it's impossibly like the chance of that is impossibly low to actually even get to that point. And so, yeah, but given what had happened in Tokyo, we had actually talked about it quite a bit. We debated it over the dinner table with the boys, on tour, and I'd talked to my coach about it, and like talked to Maddie and all these things. And I think for me, like, what I'd always said in my standpoint was that, like, for me, sport is about, like how I mentioned, when I was a kid, like, going to completion and finishing the event and not stopping until the job has been done. And obviously in high jump, people can see it and go, well, you both jump the highest, so why would you keep going? But I think for me, high jump's more than that. It's also about the competition you have with your competitors and making sure that there's one guy left right at the end of it, one man standing, and whether that means you jump higher and higher, or whether it means that you kind of have to break a deadlock by jumping slightly lower. It's ultimately the same thing for me. So I always knew that if I was in that position, I never thought I would be in that position. Firstly, because of just how unlikely it was. I felt like being a part of a jump off and sharing a moment that would then add value to our sport and value to people watching back home and inspiration to people and hopefully get people to see it as a really cool moment was the thing that was way more important to me than actually winning the jump off. And so if I got silver, to this day I stand by it. Obviously it's easy for me to say now.
Oh, hindsight.
It's easy for me to say now, but genuinely if I'd gotten that silver, I would have been more proud of that than 2 golds, because for me that represented a moment, an opportunity where I had a choice to stop or continue on and finish a job. And ultimately I had the courage to be able to do that. So yeah, it's pretty scary. Like me and Shelby will be interlinked for the rest of our lives as being the 2 guys who were able to kind of look at each other in the eyes and agree to continue on. And I feel incredibly proud for that. But at the same time, that's not to say that in Tokyo I didn't love what the boys did. I was in that final. I was there watching, and when they did split the gold, I genuinely thought that was history being made, and I loved it. But at the same time, I knew that for me it was going to be different.
And it's interesting. I don't know if this is something you thought of, but just looping back to something you said before about your mum, when you were 5 or 6 years old and you were playing soccer and then you want to switch to rugby, and she was like, that's great, but you got to follow through and finish the season first. It's like, this is how you were raised. You do something and you follow it through to completion.
Oh, absolutely. And I think for me, the journey that I took in doing that jump off was more important than the result of that jump off. For me, like I obviously remember the gold and I obviously remember the jump, but I also remember, for me, the most special thing is I remember looking in Shelby's eyes and knowing that he wanted to keep going just as much as I did. And like that will be my moment that I'll never forget is when I realized that there was an opportunity to continue on. And I think I suppose I liken it a wee bit to also the fact that like when you're jumping really well and you have a lot of confidence, like it's so much fun. Like I love high jump in that moment. And so it's almost like getting to a point where I feel that way, because I was super confident. I felt really good jumping that day. Almost like, hey, do you want to do a few more jumps? Like you're in good shape. Like, do you want to do a few more jumps, or do you want to just stop? It's like, of course I'm going to say I want to do more. Like it's like that's the moment I've worked towards. That's the moment that I've finally got an opportunity to show the world how good I am, and also just use these amazing jumps that I've built up over a good amount of time. I finally got an opportunity to do that. Like, why wouldn't I?
And you that winning jump, you cleared it easily, eh? Like, yeah. So like you weren't even close to touching the bar. What, 3 centimetres maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was like it was crazy. It was so what are you thinking when you have that jump? Are you just in flow state, or are you? Yeah,
I think it was actually it was interesting. So in that obviously I'm in comms with Jimmy the whole time, and that's kind of like we're always adapting and working on kind of what I need to do and what I need to be thinking about with the jumps. And it was interesting. You go back to the qualifying round. I was running too fast, and I was kind of hurrying, and I didn't have great rhythm. That also kind of was happening in that final. So near the end, in my attempts at 2:38. And then into the first couple of attempts of the jump off, I was overstriding. I was running too fast. I just didn't have the right rhythm. And so what actually happened was, in that 2:34, which is the one that I ended up clearing to win, I put my mark in, and that's not something that you ever do. Like always, what will happen is you get more confidence, more speed, more intent, and you have to move your mark out. So that means you got more room to move and to run, and so. What happened was I was getting really tired. Like I was fatiguing massively in that point. I was super hungry. Like by that point, like nutrition, like I was done. And like energy levels were getting pretty low. And so Jimmy said, move your mark in, which was the first time I ever moved my mark in.
So it's like one less step or two less steps?
So it's one less foot. So it's still the same number of steps, but it's just recognizing the fact that you're not getting as much distance out of each foot, and so or out of each step, and because of that, you're trying to push too hard in the final moment rather than just allowing the jump to kind of come off the end of a nice run up. You shouldn't feel like you should feel like you're generating speed, but not having to do it in a way that's like changing your body position, or like when you accelerate, often you'll like lean forwards. Like that's just the human kind of it's just biomechanics. But so for us, we want to make sure we're still up, and often when you accelerate too hard, that's when you lean forward, and then your jump's just bad. So that was happening in those jumps, and so he made me move my mark in, and I knew that in that last jump, like if I didn't clear that, we were going to be there for a long time. Like, and the bar was going to be going down and down and down. And like that, it was getting to the point where it was like kind of getting a little bit like on edge. Like, I think to jump 234 to win in the jump off is great, because 234 still would have won a medal. And so it's like, it's fine to have that as a final height. But if we had gone to 32 or 30 or 28, I think then that would have become an opportunity, or, a potential thing where we would have had to kind of reassess whether we wanted to continue. So I knew in that moment that was like the one I had to get, and was able to kind of settle myself down again, like the qualifying round, deep breaths, slow down, just allow the jump to happen. And as soon as I put my foot down, I knew it was the jump.
And are you thinking anything or nothing at all?
You just think about that,
right?
But then once your foot goes down, you kind of know if you're in the right position or not, just because of how many times you do it. And once I put that foot down, I realised that there was a decent chance that I was going to clear that bar. And so you sort of start rising up and up and up and up, and then you start kind of rotating over the bar. You don't feel the bar's still there, and then you kind of flick off the end of it, and then we start kind of coming down again. And I knew that I hadn't touched the bar, and so that was a pretty cool moment, just to be able to kind of just really, like, time just slows down, and you just feel like that jump just goes on for so long, and then you hit the mat and it's just like boom, like, and then time is just like I don't remember what happens after that, because after that it's like the crowd just goes crazy. I can't hear anything because I'm just it's just that massive release. And then obviously I go running around the field, and history.
the commentaries are iconic. Hey? Yeah. Yes, he can! How many times have you watched it?
So I've never actually watched the whole comp fully through. It's something that me and Jimmy have been intending to like sit down and actually watch. But yeah, I've seen the winning jump quite a bit.
So so you famously go running on the javelin field afterwards. Is that was that spontaneous, premeditated?
It was kind of a little bit premeditated. So I was sort of like kind of thinking, like, just in my my cockiness of like, oh, if I win, like, what am I going to do? And like everyone like through the comp had been talking about how amazing the crowd was in Paris, and it was like there was like 80,000 people in Stade de France, and there was obviously a huge French kind of element to that, but there was also just like, yeah, the vibes were just good. Like you can often sense going into a stadium, like, because I mean we compete in a lot of big stadiums, but sometimes like it will just feel a little bit off, or like they'll be interested in one thing but not super interested in others, and like they'll be very nationalist, or like whatever it is. Like you can often just like tell. But in Paris, it genuinely felt like so. Like they'd just cheer for anything. They got behind it. They were just super stoked to be there. Everyone just was having a real good time, and so. We kind of always talked about this, like all the events, like, they'd come off and be like, oh man, that crowd was so cool. And so I kind of wanted to do something that like thanked the entire crowd, because what often happens, like we're in one part of the stadium. If I win and run towards my family, then that part of the stadium is like obviously sharing that moment with me, but the rest of the stadium is kind of a little bit isolated. And so in those last few jumps, when we were getting the crowd going and getting them clapping, the entire stadium was joining in, and it really felt like they were all kind of focused on us. And so, yeah, before my 234 jump, the javelin girls walked past us on their victory lap, and so I knew that they'd finished, and so I genuinely was.
So it wasn't a health and safety issue.
No, so I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, javelin girls finished. Like, shit, I reckon the field's available, and so that was kind of one thing that I sort of knew. Yeah, I did know I was going to do it, and once I did that jump, I was like, yeah, sweet, I can go for a run now. And then obviously ran out and thanked the whole crowd in the whole stadium.
Shit, you're quite a showman, eh? Love engaging the crowd.
Yeah, well, I think like that's such a big part of it for us. You know, like we can't do what we do without them. You know, if we don't have support and we don't have people turning up, then, you know, my bills aren't going to get paid. So, you know, part of it is that, but also like, I think, you know, I just think of all the amazing moments that I've had when I've been watching sport. You know, I'm a massive sport fan. I love watching rugby. I love watching football, Formula One. You know, all these different things. I just love parking up and watching. And so, if I can also provide a few moments like that and that feeling of kind of last gasp, is he going to do it, is he not, then that just makes my job so cool. So yeah, I really, really appreciate anyone who cheers for us, you know, whether they're, you know, there or on the TV or whatever it is. Like it is something that we genuinely feel, and it's definitely one of the big reasons I do it.
So August 7th, 3 days earlier, there were tears of... By the way, this is a hell of a journey, eh? It's something that only happens over the space of like a few seconds each jump, but hearing it like play by play, it's really cool. You like reflecting on it?
Yeah, I do. Like, I think, it's... I think it's just like I have a deep feeling of satisfaction that we worked really hard last year, and you know, everything was geared towards that competition, but also like now more and more, like I know in those moments, like when it's a hard comp and I really have to work for it, it's just so much more enjoyable at the end of the day, than compared to just kind of cruising through and winning something just outright. So yeah, the fact that I won the games. If you told me that like at the start of the year, like you're going to win the Olympics, I would have freaked out a wee bit, but I would have believed you. If you told me I was going to win the Olympics in a jump off, you know, in front of 80,000 people, like one jump to win it all, and then, you know, the rest is history, that's the thing that I would have been like, whoa, hell no. Like, I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not that kind of competitor. But now it's the thing that really makes me enjoy it.
So you had like tears of like devastation or nerves or anxiety on the qualifying. What about 3 days later? Were there any like tears of elation or anything?
Not really tears. Like it's interesting. Like I never really felt like I shed a tear after the games. I think I was probably in shock a little bit. You know, I think there was definitely a few days there where I just didn't believe it. But no, I think it was incredibly fitting. Like having to go to those depths in the qualifying, and having to really like be in that space and sit with, you know, the kind of challenge to me is at my very being and at my whole was the perfect thing for that final. And then once I got to that final, it was just freedom. Like you know, whether I came 5th or 6th or, you know, I won, like I knew that I'd proved to myself that I fitted there and I was one of the best in the world. So yeah, obviously, you know, to win was great, but yeah, to kind of put that feeling of you know, am I good enough to bed in that qualifying round was you know, long term for me was the greatest thing I could have got out of that.
Yeah, and there's been so much success since then, as we've established. So you said you were at the stadium till midnight. So what happens next?
After that, you have to go through press. So there's like the mixed zone. And then I was about halfway through that, and then we got pulled out to go to the medal ceremony because it was the last night of track and field. So the medal ceremony was like straight after the event. Did that, then went back to media because I hadn't finished media. And then we had a press conference, which was like separate media. And then I had drug testing, and then I got out of it from there. So yeah, it's always busy. Like it's funny. Like Maddie always knows. Like if I do really well, like if she's not there, or even if she is there, she's like if I do really well, she like just won't text me for 4 hours because she like knows that it's going to be busy. And yeah, it was a real whirlwind. Like Jimmy was there with me from the medal ceremony. So yeah, we were able to like have a real cool moment under the stand and be able to just celebrate together, and then we just kind of cruised through all of that stuff together, which was super cool. So yeah, it's quite nice as well. Like it gives you a bit of a calm before the storm. Like obviously you're doing a lot of media and various other things, but it's like just being able to kind of sit with that moment, you know, with yourself and also with the other competitors, because the medalists kind of all have to do it together, is a very special kind of moment to share, and then you kind of leave the stadium and everything kind of just explodes from there.
What are you thinking during the medal ceremony? How do you not cry during the national anthem with a gold medal around your neck?
Yeah,
my God.
I think like because it was straight after the comp, like I was just like
exhausted.
I was so hungry and like so tired that like I was just like barely like I was just smoked at that point. But no, I mean, I shed a tear this year at the medal ceremony in Tokyo. That because that was the next day. Like I think it gave me a little bit more time to like really think about what was going on. But yeah, it's just I'm just super grateful for those moments.
Yeah. Who's the first person you call when you get reunited with your phone?
So after the qualifying, Mum was the first person I called to apologise to her because I didn't know what had happened in their neck of the woods, but I assumed that she would have gone through that roller coaster with me together. So I called her and said sorry. But then after the final, I'm not sure who I called first.
Was your phone blowing up?
Yeah, I don't usually turn it on because like Jimmy was there, Maddie was there, and it was actually probably Mum and Dad as well, just to say thanks and just hope that they're all good. But yeah, it would have been them, and then shortly after that would have been my team back home as well.
Would you say it's life changing, winning an Olympic gold medal?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, 100% it is. But not drastically. Like, I'm still the same person. I still have to wake up every day and do what I do. But I think it just gives me a huge amount of confidence moving forwards to know that what I do is worthwhile and you get some pretty cool results out of it. So yeah, I think that it's given me a lot of sense of pride in what I do and the work that I've put in and to be able to kind of show that to people is really cool. But yeah, I wouldn't say drastically, but yeah, in a nice way.
And like it's over a year ago now. Do people still recognise you? Where are the places that you can't go to or that you avoid if you just want to be in your own headspace?
Well, the places I don't go to so much these days would be like the bottle store. You just gotta maintain. It was funny. I actually one of the first times I kind of realised that people do recognise me quite a lot more now is I was in the supermarket straight after the games. I'd just gone home. I was actually two. Yeah. So one of them was I'd just gotten home, I was in the supermarket and I had a bottle of champagne in both hands and I was like going up to pay and some guy came up to like shake my hand and so I had to kind of like...
do the awkward.
Yeah, and so I was like holding these two like bottles of champagne and he just kind of like look at me like, oh yeah, good on you mate, like go celebrate. And then the other one was that, went and caught up with Jimmy. It was like the first time we caught up since the games because I went travelling afterwards and he went home. And we went and got Domino's. And so we went in and like ordered Domino's and we were both sitting there like waiting for our pizzas and a guy came up and he just was like, mate, oh, you're like the high jumper and the coach. Like, oh, good on you. Like, oh, and good to see you eating some good food. Like, I was like, oh, oh no. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm that much more aware of it, but yeah, you definitely do get recognised quite a bit now.
Where do you keep the medal?
The
Olympic gold.
The Olympic one is just at home, tucked away somewhere. But
Sock drawer.
Very, very close to like I can get it out when I need to show people. So yeah, it gets brought out quite a lot still.
Does it have a name or anything?
No,
you haven't nicknamed it.
It's just my medal.
Is it in good condition? I've seen a few that are in really poor repair. Eric Murray springs to mind.
Yeah, it's. I wouldn't say it's in great condition. Like it's definitely got its fair shares of nicks and scratches and stuff. But I think that's also like part of its story, right? Is you get it out and you show people. And there was one time I was a little bit pissed off. I was going through security. I was coming up to Auckland to meet with some people, and so I had it in my bag, and it always gets pulled up in security because it's like a big hunk of metal. And so the lady like brought it out, and she was like looking at it, and she's like, "Oh, this is cool." And then the guy who was getting his bag checked next to me saw it and was like, "Oh, sick! Is that like an Olympic medal?" And so he grabbed it. And then he like looks at it, and then he just like dumped it down on the desk, like on the desk again. And like all the security people were like, "Bro, like what are you doing?" Like, and so I was, so there's like a little bit of a dent because of that. But yeah, I mean that's just part of the story, right? Yeah.
It must be really. I don't know if this is something that you dwell on too much, but like when you were a kid growing up, like there were no high jump role models, so there was no sort of pathway. Now you've sort of created this pathway.
Yeah, I mean. Yes, I have. Like, I mean, I looked up to, my first games that I watched was Athens 2004. So it was like Sarah Ulmer, the Eva Swindells, Hamish Kerr, all these guys. Like they were my heroes. And now that I've got to where I am, like, I just realized that like I just had to be me to get there. Like all the things that I had deep down in me from being that kid watching Athens, like they were the things that were going to make me an Olympic champion. I just didn't realize it yet. And so, it's all very well looking up at all these athletes and seeing the pathways they've been on. But like at the end of the day, like the next high jumper is not going to be the same as me. They're not going to have the same strengths. They're not going to have the same weaknesses. Like they'll be good at other things. They'll have a different life. And so, yeah, so long as they just realize that it is possible, you've just got to get out there and work as hard as possible and just turn up every day and, just enjoy what you do and just work as hard as possible. That's pretty much it. Like, if you want to be the next Hamish or, the next Zoe or whoever it is in life, just work really hard.
What would you say your best and worst habits are?
Best and worst habits. My best habit is that I put a very high price on sleep. So I'm in bed by 10 o'clock every night, and I have the exact same wake up every morning. And so that's my main kind of source of recovery, I suppose. What's the alarm?
6 a.m., 7 a.m.?
Nah, 7:30. I'm not.
That's a lot of sleep.
Yeah, I don't get up.
9.5 hours.
Yeah, it is. But that's just what I need, right? Like, I mean, I've always needed a lot of sleep, but, especially when I'm training really hard, I sleep a lot. So that's probably my best habit. Worst one is I love snacks. Just love snacks. Most of the year I'll be having like chips and lollies relatively regularly. And then only like in the last kind of couple of months before I need to really lock in, do I kind of really pull back on that stuff. But
does it matter?
I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, like I've got the results, right? So you could probably say it doesn't really matter that much. I think anything in moderation is pretty fine. I'm not a massive no-goer of things, but yeah, there's definitely times where you have to lock in a wee bit more.
Is there a what if that keeps you up at night?
No, not really. No, I feel like at the end of the day, I know deep down that I've worked really hard for what I've got. I've obviously got a lot, but I also worked really hard for it. So that's the main thing that I remember.
What about future goals?
240 is a big one. Obviously, I think that's the thing that I feel like is very capable and something that I really want to do. But yeah, other than that, that'll be the next year or so, and then from there on, it's just about setting my life up for what is post sport and making sure that's as fulfilling as possible.
Yeah. What about personal goals?
Personal goals. I want to learn French. We spend a lot of time in France now, and kind of one of my kind of goals, which is kind of a little bit athletic but also very personal, is that I want to live in France for like at least 6 months for the next few years, just while it's the European summer. And so, yeah, learning French and kind of integrating into their culture is something I feel like I've got a really good opportunity to do right now.
Why France? Just because it's a cool place.
Yeah, it's just a cool place. Like, I mean,
bring us back good memories.
Yeah, I mean, we based in Nice, so like Mediterranean. It's a pretty cool spot. It's an amazing life to be had down there, and yeah, to be able to balance New Zealand and there is something I'm super grateful for. So yeah, I think one of the big things was like we wanted to live somewhere that's just a nice place to go, and Maddie loves the beach. I love the heat. There's access to great training facilities there. There's a lot of people we know well. So yeah, that's kind of where we ended up. But yeah, it's a good spot.
And if your family and friends were in another room talking about you, what are 3 words that you'd like them to use to describe you?
3 words would be friend, honest, hardworking. That's almost 3 words.
We'll give you the 4th as a bonus. You've earned a bonus word. They're great. They're cool words, eh? Are you proud of yourself?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, massively proud of myself. I think I'm massively proud of, like, the guy sitting here 3 years ago is not the guy sitting here today. And I think for me, that's the most important thing. As the goals have gotten bigger and those dreams have become realities, I've had to grow as a person, and that hasn't always been fun. But ultimately, I've been able to kind of, take that challenge head on and be a better person because of it.
Well, I'm so proud of you. You'd achieved so much 3 years ago when you're on the podcast, and you've just done so much more since then. It's been inspiring. And like from like my perspective and the perspective of the public, what we see is just snippets on the news or on YouTube every now and then at these
Good snippets.
yeah, at these, apart from the memes, at these sort of pinnacle events. But what we don't see is the part of the iceberg that's under the water, all the hard work, all the anguish, and all the sacrifice that goes into it.
Yeah, you don't. But at the end of the day, it's the thing that all those results sit on top of. So it's very important.
Yeah. Are you okay with being a meme?
I love it. Yeah,
it's a great meme.
What
happened with that jump, by the way?
So that was 2:38. It was my last attempt at 2:38 before the jump off, and I just went in with way too much steam. Like I kind of was like, I'm going to get up for this. I'm going to run real fast and just put my foot down, and then I realised that I'd run far too fast, and so I was like too late to pull out of it, and so I just popped under the bar, and it's so funny. Like some people know me as like the Olympic champion. Some people know me as like that high jumper who is a meme of, and it's super funny. Like even nowadays, like I reckon at least twice a week I'll get people sending them through. But I really appreciate it. I have no qualms about it whatsoever. It's very funny.
Would you appreciate it as much if the outcome had been different?
Probably not. But.
No. Hey, this has been bloody great. This has been really awesome. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you for being one of, I don't know how many people, maybe 2 or 3 people that has been a repeat guest on the podcast. But I'm so pleased we agreed to do it because there's been just so much more going on in your life to catch up on, and it's really inspiring. Yeah, thanks heaps. And I mean, look, you've had an amazing journey the last few years as well. So it's been very cool to come and check out the new pod lab and see what you've been doing. So yeah, it's great. I can't wait for my next visit in a few years' time. I appreciate it. Hamish Kerr, thank you so much. Thanks, mate.